Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Weber-Punderson, head of school at Carrabassett Valley Academy. And I don't know, Sugarloafer since birth, whether I had a choice or not. It is my great honor to introduce Seth Wescott. Seth Wescott had been skiing for 10 years when he gave it up in 1989 at age 13 to focus strictly on snowboarding. Although he studied and trained at Carrabassett Valley Academy, he spent plenty of time on the mountain with other Winter Olympic athletes. It would be years before his sport became an Olympic event. At first, Seth competed only in halfpipe. Then, in 1986, he added snowboard cross. After competing in both events for the next 5 years, Seth started to really appreciate the event where he didn't have to impress the judges, just be the first to cross the finish line. Specializing exclusively in snowboard cross, Seth quickly found competitive success, becoming a 3-time national champion. Unfortunately, in 2001, he tore his ACL in a World Cup in Sapporo, Japan. But he persevered and continued to compete after recovering, winning silver in the 2002 Winter X Games and finishing the 2003 season 3rd overall in the World Tour standings. That year, Seth added a new wrinkle to his training: big mountain riding in Alaska. After being dropped from a helicopter, he would ride down whatever terrain and condition he found. Snowfields, powder, steeps, crud, you name it. The training regimen obviously worked. Seth won silver in snowboard cross at the World Championships, and over the next 3 years piled up numerous podiums, including a gold medal at the 2005 World Championships. Ever an advocate for the sport he loves, he lobbied the Olympic Committee to have snowboard cross included in the Winter Games. And it paid off. In 2006, Maine got its first gold medal in the able-bodied Winter Games when Seth won the inaugural snowboard cross event at the Winter Olympics. And in the 2010 Olympic Games, he successfully defended his title. For his success on the world's biggest stage and his inspiration to Maine's young skiers and riders, please welcome Seth Wescott to the Maine Ski Hall of Fame.
So I was going to make a joke about the cover of the thing, and let's toast 8 amazing skiers and a visionary. And I was amazed that my Nordic career on China Lake as a young kid would have come into my background, because I was just thinking I was getting the count was a little off, and I was getting lumped into the visionary category. But I was also thinking that probably wasn't the term that Crusher was thinking of as he showed up with Blaine Holding, the warden, at the Salsa Shack as we had a bunch of hot chainsaws and we're cutting the new trails below the backside. I'm sure there was a slightly different term he might have used for what me and my roommates were envisioning back there. But hey, all these years later, we have Burnt Mountain, we have cat skiing, and sometimes that early visionary stuff pays off of just dropping in. I love this place. Sugarloaf has always been my home. I had a pretty cool car ride in the summer of 2005. After winning that World Championships, I'd been doing a Olympic Committee mentor program in Beaver Creek, and Phil Mayer and I shared a car ride from Beaver Creek back to DIA. And having a couple hours in the car with him as the world champion, moving into my first Olympic year, was pretty amazing to sit and talk to someone who had been through, getting a silver in his first Olympics and coming up just short, versus the experience that he had 4 years later when he went back. And what he didn't realize the first time was watching the flag go up and not hearing the national anthem. He was like, I earned a silver medal. And this was something that he'd always been working towards. And 4 years later, sharing the podium with his brother, when he first heard the national anthem play, he realized for the first time that it wasn't him who had earned that. It was the bus drivers he'd had taking him to the ski area as a young kid. It was every coach who'd set a gate for him. And he went through a transformative experience in that moment of realizing the community that you come from and the people that help you in all those incremental steps along the way are the ones who really make winning a gold medal for a nation about winning it for the nation. It's not about winning it for yourself. And that car ride with Phil that day sat with me over those next 6 or 7 months on my way to the games, and his thoughts were in my head that whole time. And so for me, it was a really different experience of going into the games and not feeling like I was unprepared. I felt like I had knowledge that no one else had. I was really fortunate from a young age because of this community and because of the open-mindedness of a few people. When John Rizzo let Mark Fawcett come to CVA as the first snowboarder, he didn't hold any prejudice to the fact that here was a young man from St. John's, New Brunswick, doing a different sport. He looked at him as a world-class athlete and someone who was maybe more dedicated than any other academy student that he had at that moment. And he allowed him to come in and train even though there wasn't a program for him. The following year, Mark recruited 2 more athletes, Jeremy Jones and Adam Hostetter, and my first coach, Eric Webster. And again, John helped create that program because he looked at them as serious athletes. It wasn't about being snowboarders or being skiers. And I am grateful that I got, because of John's open-mindedness, to be able to follow in their footsteps and end up becoming a part of that program. Chip Carey was another one who, for me, when I, much to my parents' chagrin, dropped out of college and came back to Carrabassett to do a PG year and go on the Pro Tour, Chip pulled me immediately into the marketing with Sugarloaf. Man over here, Crazy Eddie, as he is probably best known. I showed up on that Christmas break and he was over pushing snow for the biggest jump that Sugarloaf had seen to that point in time over on the Whiffle Tree Chair. I didn't have a pass, so I hiked up Mountainside Road and cut over to where I heard this jump was being made and hopped into the cat with him, and that started the beginning of a relationship that lasted many years and helped develop the first parks here, the first pipes. That was another person who just saw kids with a passion who wanted to push themselves and say, hey, what can we do to give them the opportunity to get better? So I would have a funny moment every year. We always had South American World Cups, and I'd have to be getting ready to go down to Chile and Argentina. And I have an ask for all of you tonight. Every year I would have to get online and redo my membership with the US team. And every year there was a little box of, what ski club are you a member of? And I would debate on whether I would check that box every year. I can joke about this on the cover, but as a kid, I got spit at off chairlifts here, wearing shirts like this, riding my skateboard up and down the hill on Middle Street in Parham. For some reason, the football players always wanted to seem to make a guess at your sexual orientation. They were wrong. But we dealt with a lot of prejudice as young kids being in action sports growing up. And so I would inevitably check that box of the Sugarloaf Ski Club, but I look around the nation, and I've been around the world, and the most predominant ski clubs in North America, Vail Valley Ski and Snowboard Club, Aspen Valley Ski and Snowboard Club, it's adding one word to a title. And as someone who represented you, I look at my best friend from childhood who we grew up here snowboarding together. I don't want my godsons to grow up feeling prejudiced at this ski area because we aren't able to add the word snowboard to our club. So there's 400 of us here. We make most of the decisions here. I know we would battle with Bruce Miles for this for years, and Bruce would nearly have a heart attack about every time that Johnny and I would bring it up. But we're at a very, the United States is as divided as it's been in my lifetime right now. We all love snow. We're all passionate about this. We should be voting for the future of our kids and the future of our kids to be able to enjoy snow, like be a climate voter. And it would mean the world to me if our club could take under our new leadership the step in making sure that everyone feels welcome who is a part of that club moving forward. And I thank people like John for making me feel welcome in those days back then, because those things make a difference to every kid who's going through that process. And as supported as I felt here, kids could feel more supported. So it was an honor. It was an honor to get to represent our nation. It was an honor to get to represent Maine. I'd like to think I'm not done yet. I did 3 events last year and won all 3 of them. So I got a few more years in these legs and knees, even though they make noise as I go upstairs, as my mom was asking me today. The other, Deirdre Warren is here tonight, and when my family separated when I was 12, I didn't grow up in a family of skiers, but I was adopted into the Warren family. Buzz and Deirdre took me on as a second son, and that's why I got to become a Sugarloafer. And I am so deeply honored that she and Johnny can be here sharing this with me tonight, because Buzz might have taught me about skipping school, as when we were 12, he took us to Tuckerman's for the first time, and we skied Tuckerman's from just below the lip of the bowl as young kids who probably had no business being in there on a powder day, but it's part of what led me to the Alaskan adventures and going to Antarctica and all around the rest of the world. I love this place. I'm really excited. I got a great email from Carl yesterday about whether we land on the same job title or not is what Ethan picked. It's all good. But I'm just excited. I've spent time all over the world, and clearly my wife and my kids are based in British Columbia, but I will always be coming back here to be a part of this community and to help the development that moves forward. I probably won't get caught with a chainsaw by a warden anymore, but we'll plan things a little further ahead. But I'm honored to be a part of this community, and it means a lot to me to become a list on this names of the people that have stepped forward ahead of me to make themselves known nationally and internationally in skiing and snowboarding. So thank you.